accordance with the principles of doublethink. It does not matter if the war is not real, or when it is, that victory is not possible. The war is not meant to be won. It is meant to be continuous. The essential act of modern warfare is the destruction of the produce of human labor. A hierarchical society is only possible on the basis of poverty and ignorance. In principle, the war effort is always planned to keep society on the brink of starvation. The war is waged by the ruling group against its own subjects, and its object is not victory over Eurasia or Eastasia, but to keep the very structure of society intact.
Grimerica.
The military-industrial complex is kind of like the elephant in the room. People don't want to talk about it, but it's the biggest influence on what's going on, really.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. We are going to be chatting about the police state and sacred geometry and all sorts of fun stuff with Eathan Indigo Smith a little bit later. And yeah, it's a funner. But first, as always, Graham Dunlop.
Hey, buddy.
I feel like I just let a lot of people down. That's
yeah,
fine.
you probably did. Well, what were you going to say? And then you decided not to. Are you just giving up on the G words?
That hasn't been a G word for like 50 episodes.
Just put an O between my initials.
O Dunlop?
God.
No. How about Graham? This could be the last episode Dunlop.
Why is that?
Well, we'll see what kind of shape you come back in from your ball hockey endeavor.
Sure. I want to say...
Mr. I've lost 8 to 12-ish pounds.
I said 5 to 10. You're already exaggerating what I said.
It'll grow. Just like the weight comes down, the
loss will
go up.
I shouldn't need something to motivate me to lose weight. That's all. It sucks.
No, you shouldn't.
But that's good that I did.
And it shouldn't be ball hockey with your old buddies if you do have something.
I'm getting nervous.
You should.
Oh, yeah.
You're in terrible shape.
Shut up. I should say a little bit more about Eathan, though, before we continue on. Get off of me for a bit. We talk about a lot of cool stuff, though. Metaphysics of monotheists and Tai Chi and Qigong and nuclear energy, GMOs, all that good stuff.
You said it right.
Did I? It felt wrong. It did. So yeah, anyways, good chat with Eathan coming up. He's got some interesting work, lots of cool books and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So last step was a big hit.
Yeah, Clif. I got a couple synchronicities from Clif's.
Synchronicities?
Yeah, from Clif's episode already. People emailing in. Interesting.
Jingle.
Graham is an all-in believer in chemtrails.
Yeah, you did that on purpose. So yeah, lots of good feedback on Clif. Good tweets and
twits.
Yeah,
twits and tweets.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, actually, I met some local friends too. Shout out to Steve and now I'm gonna
Darren from Calgary.
No, I'm gonna forget how to say the name. Kareen and Steve. Yeah, they're following Clif High as well, and they found us. So yeah, it's pretty. Lots of good feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also about...
It was a blast. I could do another show with Clif anytime.
Yeah, for sure. Do you want me to get into the synchros then, or...
I'm a rambling Graham with synchronicities all over the web. And Darren is skeptical about everyone and don't believe it yet.
If this jingle had a music video, your little stretch there would have been in the final cut for sure.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, this is from LB. He says, here's a quick semi-synchro that just happened yesterday. Yesterday I was watching a YouTube video about extreme weather and they mentioned Clif High. I remember that I used to follow him on some forum years ago. I had actually forgotten all about him and his WebBot project. So I got interested again and went and checked out his latest webpage, even gave it a bookmark. Then, today, I go and get your latest podcast, and yeah, Clif is your guest this week. Can't wait to go hear this one. You guys are the best. Don't change a thing. That's from LB.
3.42.
Thanks, LB. That's fun. And appreciate the feedback.
Hadn't we been talking about Clif coming up for a while? I think that synchro is blended.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
I'll give it a, unless someone can prove otherwise, I'll give it a 4.42.
4.42? Oh my God.
Oh my God. What?
As you said that, I looked at the number 4.42 on the email that I'm about to read.
Okay.
I looked at that 4.42 right there as you said that.
I'll give that a 7.
This email is at 11:04:42.
That means that I.
Did you see that?
No, that means that my rating is good.
We're not shitting. We're not shitting here in Grimerica.
And I will give your synchro 6.
This is from the subject line of this is Synchro of the Year.
Ooh.
Yeah, high hopes, high expectations.
Well,
on
I
this
played
one.
the drum roll already.
So hey guys, I'm the guy that pointed out the chemtrail sky to Darren on YouTube on your parachute jump, and he's that annoying guy on Twitter. He says
Someone else has pointed. A few people have pointed out the chemtrails.
They were higher than our jump then, I guess, because we didn't jump through them.
We should have. We were 4K.
What?
4 kilometers.
Oh, is that what we were? Yeah, but planes are usually cruising altitude like 30, 35. Yeah, 30, 35. So anyways, he says, but check this synchro out. I still get chills remembering it. It all happened in the space of a couple seconds, but it has left an impact on me so great that I have to share it with you. It's fast and simple, so here goes. Driving to work, listening to the Electric Egyptian show, and James is talking about analema and how to map one. So as he's talking, I'm thinking, does he mean the infinity symbol? Just as Graham says, you mean the infinity symbol, right? Wow, I thought that was weird until I look ahead and see this. And it's a truck ahead of him with the infinity symbol and infinity below it. As he's driving, the truck...
So it's a Honda Infinity?
No. It's a sticker on the truck, on this pickup truck. Like if you blow up that picture, it shows infinity. Huh. There's an infinity symbol on the truck ahead of him at the same time. It's like a triple.
Yeah, but you guys are both, it's a lot of people would think of that when he said that.
I don't know. I didn't really know what an analema was before I read the book.
Yeah, but
it's the timing. He's thinking it, I'm saying it, and he looks and it's on the truck ahead of him.
Yeah, I guess. But you guys are both just recalling your past memories of what an analema looks like.
I didn't have past memories of an analema.
Clearly you did. Or you wouldn't have thought it looked like an infinity symbol. Were you guessing? Was that a wild guess?
No, it's because I learned about it.
There you go.
But he didn't.
How do you know?
Oh, maybe he did. Yeah,
but still, that doesn't down the line.
Yeah, I don't think that affects it.
So there's probably a million. I bet you. I would like to hear from more people who thought that when they heard that, because I bet you there's more than one. Bet you there's more than 10. Anyone who has heard before that knows that an analema looks like that. Analema.
I think I spelled it wrong in the show notes. But.
Well, that changes it too. I'll give it a. It's not the synchro of the year. I like the synchro of seeing the infinity in front of him more. I'll give that a 7.5. The first one I'll get a 5.
No, it's all part of the same thing. You can't just separate it out. No, you can't separate it out. That's what makes it so
pushed to the side.
That's what makes it so impactful for him.
No, it's not impactful. You guys are just talking about a word.
It's just the same as my synchro on the street where I'm listening to something and the word comes in when I look at the guy's t-shirt that has the same word on it.
Yeah, it's just...
It's the same as that then. This is a compound synchronicity. That's what we call it.
It doesn't count. Because then it's going to cheapen the other one. You don't want it...
It compounds the
whole thing is only a 6.
Wow. Fucking tough today.
But I will give the infinity to the infinity. The car in front of him, while you guys were talking about an analema looking like an infinity symbol, I'll give a 7.5. That shit that happened before, you guys, him thinking what you said, which was what anyone who had a vague memory of what an Amelino looks like is going to come up with, is like a 4. So it's better to separate it out, because all I'm going to do is add the 2 and divide by 2 to come up with my score.
Yeah, it's whatever. I don't have to agree.
No, you don't. The fact that you don't agree makes me know that I'm doing my job properly.
So a laugh segment in there. That's terrible.
It was a cheer.
So yeah, I'm doing a MUFON report instead of the UFO quote of the week, but I also have a story, but I was thinking about leaving that for the next one. But do you got anything to...
Tomorrow never comes. I have nothing.
I
bring nothing to the table.
But it's kind of more appropriate for the next release. It's about the Phantom Moon, Neath.
What's the next release?
Rick Delano, probably, right?
That's kind of scary.
So let's save it for that. Let's save it for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's save it for that. So I got the couple MUFON.
Do we have an interview booked for next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
We kept saying, what is that? What is that? And it wasn't until after the events happened and it disappeared to the south in the darkness that we went inside. We stayed outside for a couple seconds and we went inside. And she sat on the couch and I went to the bar and I sit on a stool and I took my glasses off and we stared at each other for 5, 10, 15 minutes, who knows? And I got up and I wanted to go back.
You just cut it off right before the most important part. Yeah. So I got a couple here. This is case number 52339. This is from MUFON. This is in the vicinity of Valdosta, Georgia. 2 witnesses, each with over 30...
Why did you say Valdosta with like a
Russian
German or Russian? Valdosta.
2 witnesses, each with over 30 years experience as Army and Air Force aircraft maintenance technicians, reported that on November 19th, 2013 at 6:20, they both observed a huge triangular-shaped object, flying object, that flew about 500 feet above them, moving from north to south. The surface of the object was not clear. It had a rippling effect, like a heat mirage down the road on a hot summer's day. There were no anti-collision lights that should be on all aircraft. They both said that the object had a wingspan larger than a C-5A cargo plane and flew slowly at 10 to 15 knots, which is about 12 to 17 miles per hour, allowing an examination of the underside of the object. The object flew silently with absolutely no noise. As it slowly passed by, the rear of the object displayed a row of white pulsing lights. These lights did not light up the exterior of the object, but were set back or surrounded by a shroud. As it got further out, a very small drone-like object was noticed flying alongside to the left. When the object got further out, it banked to the southeast, allowing them to see clearly the triangular shape of the object. The next 2 drawings were made by one of the witnesses and display the object from 2 different angles, as well as the drone with the rotating lights. It reminds me of a couple sightings that my friends had seen back in like the 90s, 2000s.
Back west?
My old boss saw a fucking huge triangle-shaped craft fly over his house. The other one's from our country, Kitchener, Ontario. Case 50042. 3 vehicles pulled over off the highway in the city of Kitchener, Ontario, to observe a strange object that was crossing in front of them. It was 9:45 p.m., but the highway lighting made it easy to see a 30-foot in diameter spherical object move very slowly across the freeway, just above the utility poles. The object, only a few hundred feet from the stopped cars, was solid in shape with a glow that illuminated the trees as it passed by. The primary witness exited his car and attempted to take a photo with his cell phone, but all of the camera functions were dead. He continued to view the object for another 45 seconds. Once the object left, the witness's phone operated properly again. Damn it, eh?
He used to party down in Kitchener.
Oh, yeah? That's all you got to say about that?
Yeah. Seems like military. They can shut down social media at events and stuff now. Seems.
Well, I mean, if military can, interdimensional beings probably could too.
Because they have iPhone schematics.
Yeah. So,
no.
A military orb flying through the sky, like a metallic orb from the military.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah. I think it's more. I wouldn't. It'd be tougher for ET to crack, to fuck around with your phone.
What?
Yeah. They're not gods just because they got here. Them. Look at all the shit we can do, and we're just a bunch of dummies. Them. They designed them.
Maybe what's his name? Jobs was, downloading, channeling. You don't think they can read your minds and get all that stuff? You think that they're going to have a problem figuring out how to disable the camera on a cell phone?
You're really going. Look at it. Look at you. Just take the ball and run with it.
That's a terrible theory. That our military has more power than some supposed ET or interdimensional
over our
being?
Technology.
No. That's just not logical
that they
at
work
all.
Specifically towards the fucking with. ET just comes across an iPhone.
Yeah,
fixed.
Exactly. They go right in with their mind and find the camera settings and change it. Probably all through... So I got more good feedback from Clif High as well. I got a couple videos of fake clouds that I want to play the next time we do that segment.
From planes?
And I want to play to show you. No, not from planes. Just flying.
You don't need to show me.
I just want to show you the video of the fake clouds during a segment, but we don't have it set up to do that, right?
No. You have to plug in a cord.
So we'll do that next time. I'll save it. Okay. But it's very interesting. I think you'll find it very fascinating.
Probably.
And if they're making these little fake clouds that can wander around streets, like almost like they have intelligence, then they could probably make big fake clouds.
Intelligent clouds?
Yeah.
Intelligent clouds.
Nano particulate intelligent clouds. That's probably what's going on. You're not buying it?
Did you just concoct that?
I did.
Yeah. That's why I'm not buying it.
So that's about it?
That's all you got?
Yeah.
We're going to cut this intro at 14 minutes.
Oh, is that it?
Support the show. Grimerica.ca /support. Help us stay. Ad, sponsor, affiliate free.
Got t-shirts.
Got t-shirts. We have t-shirts. Big thanks to our new subscribers answering the call out.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Sign up. If you can't afford it, sign up at $1 a month.
$11.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
We do have fixed bills and we don't have any ads or any paywalls, or it's all free content.
If everybody gave $1 a show, we'd be laughing.
Yeah. What else? That's
send
it?
content, spam gram.
Yeah. Instagram. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter.
Share the show. We have no advertising. We don't advertise shit.
Marketing, you mean? You're saying marketing.
But we don't have
a marketing plan.
We don't advertise.
Right.
Or market or have any.
That's up to you guys to advertise.
You guys are marketers. So get her done.
Yep.
Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up your friends for the newsletter. Sign up people you don't know for the newsletter.
Oh, Art.
Grimerica.ca /news.
Mention Art.
Mention Art. Our buddy Art's going to come on the show in a couple weeks. Who's Art?
Art. Like Napoleon Doom is taking care of our artwork weekly episodes. And people are voting on them and stuff. We should talk about this. We don't know this week's winner, right? We talked about last week's winner.
So, your sister.
Yeah, it was my sister. Congratulations, Joe. That was for Cliff. That was Cliff.
Shit seems rigged.
Maybe that's why that episode's doing so well, because Joe did the art.
Can't rule it out.
Anyways, we have unique art every week, and you can see the different art on the different podcast players and stuff like that. And everybody's welcome to throw their piece in. If you email nap@grimerica.com, or you go to lostbreadcomic.com, the Grimerica Pie art contest, you can find out just how to email him and stuff like that. And he gives you some keywords or some sort of show notes, and then build a conceptual piece of art with the guest name on it, and then Darren puts his
I'll make an auto
stamp
forwarder, like grimerica.ca/art that auto forwards to his website.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Biatch.
Did you ever find that Bitcoin that you lost?
No. No one's come forward. So.
No. Good job.
I'm hoping eventually they'll listen to the episode and contact me, so we'll have that Bitcoin credit with the Fiverr guy. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Maybe he just never sent it.
Maybe.
It's always a possibility. What else you got?
That's it, buddy.
No, you gotta have something else.
Really? Why?
Yeah. Too short.
I got a poem.
Okay.
This is a poem from the guy that wrote me about Neath, but I've never done like slam poetry or anything like that, but I could give it a try.
Sure.
I'm a little
Absolutely.
Nervous. This is from Daniel, which I'm going to read the Neath one. I'm going to save that for the other episode, but then he follows up with this. Time for Saturn. Hello. I'm the sun again. I messed it up already. Fuck.
Try
again. Hello. I'm in the sun again. And I'm in the sun again. What's a mile in space? What the hell is a ton? How fast were you traveling when math's fucked up? Let's radio home for bearings. Feels like that old movie Interstellar. You set out to conquer the universe and ended up behind your own bookcase. One small step into space. Time's long gone. It's fucked out. My watch totally sucks. I've not known anything green this way. I saw green once, then past Mars, then no more greens at all. I wouldn't even know my own name if you died on me here, Ace. My Jupiter gravity eyes are deaf. Oh, there's Saturn already. Hi, I'm in the sun. I'm you and I'm me. I'm everyone in the sun again. 2 days later, what's on television today?
Is that the end?
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks, Dan.
Read beautifully.
Thanks, Dan.
Read beautifully.
It reminded me of Ephraim's book, Smoking Green on Phobos.
I have a synchro. I have a synchro for you.
Okay. Oh, I have another one from YouTube.
You're out.
I want a good skull from a synchronicity. If Graham reads it out, then Darren might give it to me. Hey, don't you please read it low. Yeah.
So I'm playing a game called Kerbal Space Program right now.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Where interplanetary missions are something you design while smoking weed.
That reminds me.
I'm a college grad, engineering, looking for a job while thinking of the ultimate future goals, came to the conclusion, literally not 5 minutes before turning this podcast on, that with the budding space industry and cannabis industries, I'd want to help grow weed in space. Anyways, 28 minutes in, and the conversation has just turned aliens growing weed in space. Amazing. Also been reading Larry Niven for the first time and just got done watching the Star Trek TNG also for the first time. So a sci-fi themed space pop book sounds unbelievably relevant to everything I'm currently thinking about and doing. And this is just 28 minutes in.
Nice. I like that one. I had that one saved up too, actually. I forgot about it. Thanks, buddy. That sort of has to do with that poem, I think, actually.
Does it?
Yeah.
Is it the same guy?
It might be.
What's the rating? The fact that
6.42.
There you go. I like it. Harsh but fair. What else you got?
That's it, buddy.
One more thing?
Nope.
Nothing?
No. Are you trying to end this at some 33 moment or something like that?
I'm trying to get past 23. So I don't get emails about how cheap and dirty it felt. The last one was long, so fuck it. enjoy the chat with
Eathan,
Indigo,
Smith. All right, we got Eathan Indigo Smith here with us tonight. He's an activist, author, and a Tai Chi teacher. He's some of his latest works, actually his latest book is Geometry of Energy, How to Meditate. He's also got some popular publications like 108 Steps to Be in the Zone, and what's the other one I was thinking of there, the collective one? Guide to Patriot. What is that one called? What's that one called, Eathan? The Complete Patriots Guide
to Oligarchical Collectivism.
Oh, yeah, I like that. So, we've been learning about his stuff here, and Darren and him connected somehow online, and it's good to have you here, Eathan. Thanks for coming on the show.
I bow to you for welcoming me on the show and having me on to speak. It's the highest compliment a writer can get is just to be able to talk.
Nice. Well, sorry about the little flub there at the beginning. We were talking for a while and we thought we better start up the recorder before we start getting rid of all the good stuff. But we do, I was listening to some of your books, actually I should say reading them / listening to them on an app. And it's fascinating. It's a lot of stuff that we talk about here, some spiritual stuff and some kind of wake up world awareness stuff. Actually, you do write I wanted to say that as well, you do write for a website, right? Called Wake Up World?
Yeah, wakeup-world.com. They're out of Australia. They're, of course, international, just website. And they have some great contributors. That title to that book, first book, is almost a flub in and of itself, so don't feel bad. And I was inspired to make this lengthy title because this book is kind of the nonfiction version of the fiction book within the book 1984. So right. In 1984, the main character gets a book, and I wanted to present that idea in reality, and that's the inspiration, and hence the title.
Nice. That's quite the work, too. I mean, I only received it digitally, so I can't imagine. But, I mean, when I downloaded it into my app, I think it was 19 hours. So it must be pretty thick on paper.
If anything, it's too big. But it is the complete Patriots Guide, after all. So it's complete.
Darren's a big fan of 1984 year. He's read it a few times. I don't know when the last time I have, if I ever have, actually. I must have I think I did when I was younger, but... Yeah, this really resonates with you, eh, Darren?
Yeah.
You could let me finish my sneeze.
Oh, sorry. What's striking to me initially about that book is the military state that everyone is in. And at the backdrop is also this suggested nuclear disaster that post-England is dealing with. So this is not so dissimilar to the world today. After Fukushima, that was a paradigm event. And the secrecy law in Japan was passed right after that. So essentially, Japan went fascist right after this nuclear disaster. And if, the United States EPA and even in Canada, I believe, these environmental government organizations hid the actual radiation measurements from the public. And I start the Complete Patriot's Guide with the sentence, "It's all about information."
Yeah.
And this is so true no matter what time period it is, but especially now in the nuclear era, we see the military-industrial complex is kind of like the elephant in the room. People don't want to talk about it, but it's the biggest influence on what's going on, really, in overt and sometimes covert manners.
Yeah. I really like the beginning of that book where you were talking about truth, because it's really the way. It was quite a long, chapter, but it really described how I feel about truth. You know, how we might know about these historic events, even something that just happened yesterday that you hear about in the news, but to get to the truth of it really is difficult. There's a whole bunch of different sides to the story. There's different intentions, different perceptions, and you really, really sum that up well. I wouldn't mind talking a little bit more about that.
Well, thank you. You know, I really approached writing that lacking an opinion is as much as that is possible. I leaned on the side of being pro-individual and anti-institution, if anything. And so in doing that, I was able to kind of present a balanced investigation. And that led me, as I was writing it, to find some new insight. One, I think, is really profound for empowering the individual. And this is what that book was said to be all about, right? In 1984, the book within the book, as it's often referred to, was said to empower individuals among institutions. And, well, library and liberty are from the same etymology, because when you learn, you free your mind and you can do things. There's a famous dialectic called the Hegelian dialectic that's broke down typically as problem, reaction, solution. And it's also thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. Excuse my lisp. And what I think is missing from that, what I found as I was exploring this, this is a controlling trinity, right? Of course, everyone presents this idea that this is a way to control. The left-right dynamic is a way to typify it. They come up with their synthesis of ideas that are kind of don't work for anyone, but they're institutions, and it's proceeded. But the empowering aspect of this trinity that's left out is nullisis. And that is saying, no, neither. So instead of saying one or the other or neither, or one or the other or the combination, you say neither. And this is what actually civil disobedience does, essentially, right? No more. And this is also really what fascist institutions can't deal with. The definition of fascism is a good example of one that has been very much like in 1984 and the incredible shrinking dictionary, but in reality, this definition has been shrunk, belittled, and totally kind of diluted and mixed up with other words. But fascism is really a government institution linking with the corporate, and even to controlling banking and controlling energy and lending and even information
and media. Yeah.
Right. So most crucially, media. Right. And information.
So that's the hard time I have is when you know the media is just bullshit, but you try and talk to somebody who watches the news and you try and explain to, or I try and explain to them like how it's bullshit, and it's difficult. Like it's hard to just say, because it comes off so strong right away. Like let's use one of the latest shootings, for example, right? right away, it's all about the race card, and they're dividing us really. And if you really look into what happened, it's a totally different story. But I mean, to explain to somebody, you got to kind of get into the details of each and every instance in a way. But it's really such blatant messaging and propaganda.
Yeah, well, it harkens to the expression divide and conquer, but not necessarily divide people, just divide the information, the meaningful stuff, divide it up, and then people don't get to connect the dots, right?
Yeah.
And I really like, although I'm horrible at math, I really like to use mathematical ideas in explaining politics, and actually, obviously, like with the geometry of energy, in exploring spirituality. There's 4 types of arithmetic. They've tried to find another way to manipulate numbers, but essentially all of mathematics is just variations of combinations of arithmetic. That's it. And the way these nefarious institutions and institutional representatives, including the media, the media is actually the best at lying. There's 4 ways to do it related to arithmetic. They add a bunch of bullshit, as you said. Mm-hmm. They subtract directly the really guts of the story that would
change the whole view. Yeah.
Or they divide information, like I just kind of suggested, or they multiply by adding a bunch of BS that totally takes it away, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a fun way of noting the ability to lie. It's not just adding BS, which is what lies are typically, or subtracting. Mostly it's adding and subtracting, but the really astute liars, the media, they get into the multiplying and dividing, right? And this shooter in Dallas, I think they keep on calling him a sniper. I don't think he was a sniper. I'm not sure. He was a shooter, right? I mean, he wasn't a sniper. I don't know what the technical details are with that, but it's just strange to me that they call him a sniper, and it was Dallas where JFK was, killed. So it's just a strange use of language. It's like there's like a multiplier there in a subconscious manner. I think.
Totally. Yeah.
It's a ministry of truth. It's just a matter of time. In a couple generations, it could be so much worse. I mean, they got your perpetual war on terror, which you need. It's so Orwellian sometimes, it's fucking crazy.
So you think, especially lately, Darren, it's getting more towards that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're completely apathetic in general to violence now, right? I mean, is it immersion in so much violence? Maybe. I mean, but is it more than that? Is it a kind of training system to be apathetic in total? Yeah. So, I mean, I think if we look back in history, we see what is almost absurd to us now, people that would defend their name with a duel. And of course, I wouldn't suggest that. That's taking it obviously a little far. But that's how much people were not apathetic. And now we let people poison our water left and right to where it's the new norm. And, I like to propose, forget about global warming, what's in the water, right?
Yeah.
And so anyone who doubts global warming, you cannot doubt the industrial soot in our water. And so something needs to be changed.
Yeah, I appreciated that part of your book as well, because we talk about the global warming aspect here as well. And there's a lot of other factors that's not talked about as well. But of course, if you even question, human-made global warming, you're, labeled a denier, and you don't believe in, recycling and all these other things, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with trying to maintain the planet, a little bit better and And all that poisoning, that's wrong. All that poisoning is wrong, but that doesn't mean that, that we're causing all that global warming. So I like the way you kind of separated that out and look at it like, I heard a doctor on a podcast the other day actually talking about how there is no pure water left anymore. Like everything is fucking contaminated now.
I've heard that before also, and I would have to make that assumption after Fukushima for certain. It would almost be kind of hard to argue. I think again, nuclear experimentation. If there's global warming, that's kind of something that people don't want to lend blame to, but these things boil millions of gallons of water every day and then send it upstream. And not only are they releasing radioactivity on a regular basis that's incidental and not accidental, they're warming up waters wherever they are through their cooling systems. So it's I think something is interesting that marijuana and hemp prohibition parallel the nuclear experimentation era. Now, what if marijuana and hemp were never prohibited? We would have abundant resources, probably so much resources for clothing and setting things afire, burning, making shelter. We would look at nuclear power plants as pretty silly.
Because of hemp itself, like the energy that you could...
Well, for one, it's the most oily plant, right? But also it would, presents so much just basic resource that can be then transformed into, well, anything, right?
Right, yeah.
That it would also just be this kind of fundamental, well, why would we set up a nuclear power plant that destroys that land? That seemed silly. And that's, if everything goes right, that's what, even a decommissioned nuclear power plant, that land is destroyed, even just that local area. And so we're kind of diverging off the subject, I guess.
Well, I think it's gonna happen lots. There's lots to talk about. Yeah. I mean, the weed and hemp thing is really interesting because it's a sad, sad story about how that all came about, right? How the that movie, what was it called again? That movie that came out. Yeah, and then Reefer Madness, and then right after that, it got criminalized and all that, and there was the people that were making the paper mill people. What was the guy, that media guy there, the Hearst or whatever.
Right,
and it's just sad, but it's really coming around in the last few years. Like you must notice a difference in the States now. Like, are things really going to start to open up? And then what happens when they do? Right, there's going to be a bit of a paradigm change there when people realize.
Well, I think, I mean, just in discussing the definition of fascism and then hearkening back to what Hearst did with his yellow journalism in order to enable all the guys that were working in the alcohol prohibition department started working in the DEA or what became, right? So, it's a good crew. They got each other's back. But it's fascism, isn't it? When it's at the government level, right? It's the very definition of fascism that he used his media not only to benefit him, but his circle of friends. And Orwell nailed it, even though you almost have to sound like a robot to explain it. Oligarchical collectivism, right?
Yeah.
Orwell nailed it. That's what it is. And that's these oligarchies or pyramidal institutions coming together over your average Joe that should have had access to hemp and marijuana.
Yeah. And look at how long it took, right? Or how long it's taking. Like 80 years, 90 years?
I don't think they got hemp yet, though. They'll
right, no. Hemp. You know what? I think there's the first harvest of hemp might have happened just now or last summer or last fall, I should say. And it's beginning in other states this summer as well. Some very few have now hemp legalization, which of course the first hemp law in the United States was, if you have a farm, you must grow it.
Oh yeah, right.
And then talk about another fascist influence in history. The reason they stopped having such a thorough interest in hemp is because they found another source for the raw material that could be produced by slaves in the Caribbean. And I forget exactly what this plant was, but it was another fibrous plant.
Cotton?
No, I don't think so. No, not quite. Maybe. I think there was another one in the Caribbean along with cotton, maybe just cotton. Yeah.
So did you find yourself in Winston's shoes a lot of the time? Like, did you walk around feeling like that for a while? Did you have to?
I mean, sometimes I do feel like Winston even today. You know, the first title to 1984 was going to be The Last Man in Europe. And so, I think we all feel like that sometimes, like, especially the more people are beetle bopping on their iPhone looking for little
fucking Pokemons.
Things. I don't know. And so, the more people are separating themselves from reality, the more I feel like Winston Smith, certainly. But, I think there's many Winston Smiths out there. A lot of them, a lot of activists are convinced that they're correct. I'm not convinced I'm correct, actually. And that's why I choose nullisis rather than, like siding with some side that turns out to be institutional framework that's often subverted and often used. So
it's like we were talking about before, right? And I'm just trying to stay in the middle.
The middle ground is where it's at, and the Tao represents that, of course, in its core, but also Hermes, all the great lessons of philosophy. Really, you can boil it down into try to find the balance, and that is certainly not something people look for today. People are really materialistic today. Like culturally, we had the hippies and then the yuppies, right? In the United States, there was the hippies in the 70s, 60s, and then there was the yuppies. They all turned looking for money, right? But what do we have now? If they were yuppies back then, we're so much more materialistic today, so much more. And the average sizes of houses represent this, but just looking around, I mean, people are so much more materialistic. And when you're thinking about stuff, you're not thinking about the real.
Yeah, but isn't there also a counterbalance to that as well? That like we talked about just in Calgary, even like the amount of Reiki students and Reiki classes and the amount of yoga going on, and meditation is like yoga was 20 years ago. Like there is a whole mind body kind of awareness, spiritual movement kind of thing. Call it. I mean, it's not really new agey, but there's that aspect of it as well. But
I think you're totally right, and you kind of nailed this contrast on the head there, because one has to have eating and housing and all the fundamentals taken care of before you start getting into Reiki. And maybe on your way, you might look into a car and a new phone and a couple other things. So you kind of have to get your stuff together before you can rise up, and then you work on these other things, like you just pointed out, this self-development course. And after self-development, you want to, help others develop too, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's you can't teach the poor. You can feed the poor. that's a good thing to do. But the poor do not want to learn about the Hegelian dialectic necessarily, right? They want it. So, yeah, all philosophy goes out the window when people are hungry. But yeah, I think, it's a contrast. We can only teach the well off, or at least the well enough. Yeah. Because otherwise we're hungry, and like, I don't care what you have to say, I'm hungry, right?
Yeah, and I don't have a roof over my head, yeah.
Well, that's you need civilization for philosophy almost. You need some sort of civilization for philosophy to build off of itself anyway, or to snowball.
At least agricultural setup to where not so much, but yeah, certainly society, because little things come up and you need help, and that's the only way humanity is at the top of the food chain, is because we help each other. Otherwise, and nowadays people don't know their neighbors hardly, right? I mean, is that just in the States?
No, that's here too. Neighbors. It's disappointing. Well, no, it is like that though. I mean, I live in a little condo complex, and it is disappointing to me that the lack of interaction I have with my neighbors. It's nice to know.
Do you try?
Yeah, of course I try.
Yeah, I bet you do. I believe you. I think that's a city thing though, because here in Chestermere, like, I if my neighbors and me are in the yard, then we're having a chat. My neighbor brought me over mail today because I accidentally put it in her box.
Yeah. So what about people that say honestly, that we're... Go ahead, Eathan.
Sorry, go ahead. No, I was just going to say, as someone who's traveled around Canada, being from the United States, I've always been so blown away by the kindness and welcoming people in Canada. So it contrasts honestly to most in the United States. But and you're right, it is a city thing. Most people in the cities are suspect of everyone, and they're on guard, But yeah, I've had nothing but great experiences in Canada.
So speaking of the hungry and that type of thing, and the fascist state that most of the Western world is living in right now, what do you say about the people that say, oh, we're way better off than we were? There's less starvation and all that. I mean, do you think that there was a point where it was getting better and now it's getting worse again? Or do you think that it's not really as good as people think it is?
Well, it's great for a lot of people. It's always been great for people, but there's also been a lot of slaves. And in fact, there's more slaves now than there was.
But the thing is,
no, please go ahead.
Well, I think we should try reconnecting real quick. It's pretty. I'm gonna pause the recording.
Can you pause that? Yeah.
Well, I think the part that you forget about is that we're the slave owners now, right? Like, everyone over here is pretty well off, but all your shirts and shit are getting made in Indonesia, and your shoes are getting made, and your computers are getting made in China, and your iPhone's getting made in China.
That's it. And I think nothing is going to change unless we all do a collective nullisis to the oligarchy, because there are institutions and institutionalized individuals that have so much that it's unfathomable to the average individual just in counting the wealth, let alone their material holdings. And this needs to change. I don't know necessarily the best way, but capitalism is a good idea. But what we have now is capitalization. We're capitalizing on people, and that's not capitalism, right? That's not an exchange. We're straight up letting dubious institutions work over whole cultures. And you're right. Yeah, it's nice being on the good side of that, right? But let's consider what's really going on in China, Tibet, and that's just that area there, and exponentiate that around the world.
Yeah. And I mean, even in our society, like even if you're well off, most people are just in debt, really. And most people, the expenses keep rising and the wages aren't keeping up as well. So, I mean, I don't feel like we're in a sustainable environment financially either as a culture.
It's certainly not sustainable environmentally now, is it? And it seems like we're acting like crabs in a barrel rather than elephants on a safari. And those are both acceptable modes in capitalism, but the crabs in a barrel gets you nowhere. Being elephants together, you get where you want to go.
So you've got nullisis as a strategy, and then what about some other practical uses? Like let's say for example, I'm really going to try and shop a little more consciously. Like when I need something, I'm going to buy it from a company who's practicing proper environmental practices and like maybe humane ways, ethical ways. Is there anything you can do to narrow that down and cross off all the companies you don't want to buy for? Like, is there an app you can use for that? And I hate to sound a little cliche.
I think there is, but I think what that represents, what doing that represents, and forgive me for sounding like an American, but I like to say I'm from the United States, right? And I wish that people would see that difference, because Canada is America, Mexico is America.
Yeah.
But there's something compelling about saying the United States. But the one thing that the United States really did well was set up a Bill of Rights. And the first of the original Bill of Rights, the First Amendment, is first for a good reason, because it empowers the individual. And it's really sad they don't teach this in schools. But the First Amendment is not only a guarantee of rights, but it's different than all the other amendments. It's a combination of principles that one can apply to guarantee those rights. So it's like a prescription to liberty. Not only is it 5 liberties, but it's also 5 ways to engage liberty. And that's what I kind of point out in the Patriot's Guide, really as the pinnacle individual empowerment, is that, like typically the first part of the First Amendment is Congress shall make no law in regards to freedom of religion, essentially. Not those exact words, but and really, what is that saying? Well, all these religious institutions have used it to really make a lot of money, to be honest. But what is that saying? It's saying that individuals can question anything up to and including God, the most likely subject for contention, the most likely to start a fight in a bar or a cafe or just about anywhere, talking about God, the interpretation of God. And so once we can speak openly about God, well, then we can speak openly about the government. And then we can find out, my auntie got kind of screwed over by that company too, that actually, and the senator has a share in the government, and what's going on. And so the First Amendment really is a way to prescribe individual empowerment among all these institutions, even with the simple action of, I'm going to choose where I spend my dollar and who gets my money.
Right. So there probably are some practical ways to do
I'm
that,
sure
right?
Perhaps what I do, I'll tell you what I do is I buy organic. If I buy simply organic, sometimes it's local, sometimes it's guaranteed. There was no slave labor and so forth. But certainly I know that the farmers weren't exposed to chemical pesticides. And more than likely, there was a whole group of people that were much more caring than, here's a great misnomer that's 1984-like, that were working in conventional agriculture. There's nothing conventional about conventional agriculture. Nothing at all. It's totally chemical. Conventional is actually organic, right? And so there's an example of, how I choose to buy my food. If it's organic, I can guarantee that at least the land was not, and the farmers were not suffering. Some of them may have been exploited. Sometimes some of these bigger companies come in and buy up smaller organic companies, and you maybe miss the ball on one aspect of your refined buying direction, but that's a good way to go, I think.
Yeah, there's the whole difficulty about organic as well. And I know in your book you definitely make a point to make sure that when you're being conscious about this stuff, that you're aware of the institutionalization of some of these things as well, right? Like the organic, registration or certification that can also be corrupted. I mean, I know a farmer myself who refused to become organic because they were already producing organic product, but to take that next step to become officially organic was not only not economical, but it was also a bit of a farce. Like they were still going to have certain chemicals coming from other farms around there, and there's all these other sort of things to take into account. So I guess you got to be careful of that as well.
Yeah, well, it really expands, that kind of notes the expansion of oligarchical collectivism into our very biological selves.
Yeah.
This manipulation of our food product with GMOs is probably the most corrupt thing that any institution has ever done by its nuclear experimentation. And looking at it with native eyes, first the white man came and took the land, then they stole everything, and then now they're breaking down the very biology of the sacred corn. It's highly disturbing. They've literally stolen everything down to the very DNA of these plants that were, like corn, the most sacred to the native peoples, right?
Yeah, and look at what's happening with that, right? I mean, it's being turned into poison, really. I mean, now we're all addicted to fucking fructose corn syrup and all that, and here's an example. There's a perfect example too. Getting back to the apathy to violence, we also have apathy to the genetic manipulation of our food product. And this is done by, I mean, you can't make it up. This is done by a former chemical weapons company predominantly. And also, it's not like they say, you know what, if you eat our stuff, you're going to feel better, you're going to live longer, you're going to be able to do twice as many push-ups, run faster. It's not like they even got to do that. They literally dose it with the most poisonous substance that they also happen to make and sell. And so it's like you can't make out how apathetic we are becoming or became, but it wasn't always the case, right? This has been a procedure over a long period of time, right? Just like the thievery of the corn down to its very biology, it didn't happen right away.
I think, though, wouldn't you think that we're less violent as a society than we were, say, 500 years ago?
I think certainly we're less violent, but are our institutions less violent? Right? I think our institutions are probably just as violent, but don't have to deal with so many people standing up to them. I don't want to prescribe violence at all. In fact, if we want to be revolutionary in this war world, which I think continues today. I mean, just looking, maybe I'm biased, but I'm being stuck in the United States. I see all this money being spent on the police state and on the military that could have been spent on, well, anything else. And so I think we, at least here in this country, are totally apathetic to that development. And it's not revolutionary to approach violence with violence. That's the same. And so there's really no difference in violence. That's not revolutionary at all. The way to really engage power in this institutionalization is to stop. If enough people walk out of said pyramid system, whether it's one corporation, if they boycott it, or enough people realize that not only did Hillary Clinton lie, but George Bush lied about going to war and all kinds of scandalous stuff that would make the average person puke, then we can start moving forward, right?
Do you think that there's a tipping point? Like, I can't help but think that there's some shift going on. I don't want to sound all, woo-wooey about the raising of the vibration of the consciousness shift or anything like that, but just seeing the Brexit and seeing what's happening in your political system with Trump, like, are people sick of the current system now? And although they might not want to tell their neighbor that they're going to vote for Trump, I mean, are they just maybe ready for a change? Like, is this going to be part of the shift? I mean, I know he's got all kinds of controversies as well, but at least apparently he's not going to propagate the same system.
I mean, I don't know about him, but I think certainly people are sick of the oligarchy, and some of them don't even know what that word is. But yeah, they're sick of the bureaucratic connection that is the institution over the individual, no matter where it is. Like you said, with Brexit, and all over right now is kind of a modality of demanding change, and part of it too, I think, is that people have access to information, and they're realizing that they are getting screwed by a institution that is not only unwholesome but too big, right? And that's why the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution says you should tear this down whenever you find a better way, or whenever it gets essentially taken over from the inside. They sort of suggested.
With your guns.
So, well, it's really, though, if enough people walk out of the system, Gandhi really, he freed all of South Asia by walking out, right? And, a good example of him dealing with violence was he refused to press charges on people that mobbed him. He said, if I'm to press charges in the English courts, that's sending one gangster after one thug after another thug. Why would I ever do that? Yeah. And so discontinuing our support, saying no, nullisis, right, is really the most provocative thing. And, in not to point to it as being successful necessarily, but Occupy is also an example of no. And essentially what you have to do to occupy a space is say no to so many things, to your job, to whatever you do normally in a day. And then you hold the space and actively vocalize no more.
Right. Do you think there was, in the end, when you look back at it, do you think there was a lot of success from Occupy?
I think there was a lot of ideas shared, and it's also interesting if you do a little research, you see that intercities and multiple mayors from multiple cities in the United States acted to shut down Occupy. So for me, it's revealing of not only they had some good ideas and also that some of their ideas weren't so good, but it shows you what the institutions will do to stop something that's catalyzing idea, right? I mean, the very notion of military psyops, which exist, is points to the power of our consciousness and our mind. So in seeing that these mayors took action and worked together with police, and let alone the specific city police infiltrated specific city environments of Occupy, they also worked together to minimize it in total. So again, it just points to the power of our consciousness and the power of people coming together.
Yeah.
It didn't necessarily catalyze what they were looking for, but it certainly put these ideas into the public spectrum.
So in the end, this writing of your book, the Patriot's Guide, it ended up leading you to the geometry of energy.
Yeah, in the Patriot's Guide, I was having a hard time presenting the idea of patriot to people as something good.
Right. Well, I seem to get that though from your book.
Oh, certainly, and I completely understand it. But what most people commonly think in the negative terms of a patriot is actually a nationalist, right?
Yeah.
A jingoist, someone who's, well, Canada's right no matter what. The United States is right no matter what. F everybody else because we're the best country on earth. Yeah, F those guys for sure. Those are ignorant nationalists. A patriot, the definition of a patriot has love of country and so forth. But I wanted to contrast patriot in terms of information, and I utilized idiot, zealot, elitist to kind of make contrasts to patriot. And there's this fourfold aspect, which I soon found had kind of almost unlimited in scope relationships to not only consciousness, but also politics. And I wrote The Matrix of Four. And soon enough, about a year ago, I was on a book tour, and I was sharing my ideas. I was in Sedona, Arizona, which is like the metaphysical armpit of the world.
I love it there.
Oh, you've been there? Cool.
A couple times, yeah. And I can't wait to go back again at some point.
I feel the same way. I met all kinds of great people, and in fact, I was having lunch with a new friend, and she was telling me about a meditation practice that she did. And because I'm a partly obsessive compulsive with the number 4, when she told me her meditation process, I couldn't help but think how similar it was to the 4 dimensions of geometry, which are points, lines, planes, and solids, or volume. And I mentioned this in the conversation, and she was like, yeah, what? And the conversation moved on. And I kind of had this cliche event where I was camping out in Sedona and not able to sleep because of this new idea, and as if something was compelling me to explore it and write it. And I thought I was going to write an article, and it turned out to be a book. But I started to explore meditation and actually comprehension of energy. As kooky as that sounds or might sound, I do it in a very grounded fashion. I started to explore these things through the 4 dimensions of geometry. And geometry simply means measurement of Earth. And so the geometry of energy is simply measurement of Earth energy. And in so many meditations, there is concentration often enough on a point. Mm-hmm. But the point represents concentration, right? Beyond mathematics and in just abstract, the point represents concentration.
Yeah.
And that's often the first thing we have to do when we meditate is concentrate.
Yeah, single-pointed focus.
Not so hard that you stress yourself out, right? But certainly you want to activate the mind most often to quell the monkey mind, right? You want to think of something so that you're not thinking of stupid things or basic things rather, right? And that's like why if you're hungry, you don't want to hear about meditation because you can't meditate when you're hungry. And unless you're on a fast anyway. But one of the next steps to meditation and the next aspect of the 4 dimensions of geometry is connection, right? Or a line. And a line obviously symbolizes connection. Mm-hmm. And going further to the planes are often symbolized as a circle. And in fact, the most obvious shape is a circle in nature, right? Birds don't make square nests, and storms are not square. So the circle is first or next, and then comes the solid or volume, right? And in searching this or exploring this concept, not only relative to meditation, but also relative to energy, one of the oldest and most well-known kind of forms of intuition that works off of energy is the tarot. And of course, there's 4 types of cards in the tarot. And there's the sword, which is a point, and there's the wands, which are a line, and there's sometimes they'll call them pentacles or something, but there's what they are shape-wise is coins,
like a plane,
like a plane, a circular plane, and then fourth and lastly is the cups, which is a volume, of course, a circular volume too. Right? Because everything is a rather spherical, I should say. The volume of a cup is a half sphere. And so the tarot is directly correlative to the 4 dimensions of geometry in its intuitive measurement, right? So I kept exploring it, and it is a beautiful fundamental to explore meditation for a process of individuation, right? I present many different types of meditations that have the 4 dimensions of geometry in them, either as specifically as the tarot concept, or perhaps a little bit more abstractly. And in a way that one formulates your own meditation. That doesn't stray from these really valuable traditional sorts.
So what would a mantra style meditation be? How would that fit in? Would that be like a line or a plane? Like, does it move up to the different styles of meditation? Like if you went from single pointed focus to mantra to a walking meditation or to mindfulness meditation, is that going through some different types there?
Certainly. The Tibetan Buddhists say that there's only 2 types of meditation, single pointedness, of course, right? Yeah. And analytical. And analytical is, could be symbolized with a line and perhaps a circle also. But really a line is almost really a simple way to look at it. So with a mantra, it is, I think, a single pointed meditation, right? Because even if the mantra is very long, you're using the mantra as a point of focus to shut up the monkey mind, right? Yeah. And it really does have that effect. And so the Tibetan Buddhists will say to practice single-pointed meditation for many years before you practice analytical meditation. But you could actually kind of ponder sometimes anyway, the same things differently. In fact, there's the mantra, and then there would also be a mandala that could be used as a single-pointed meditation, right? But to engage further comprehension, one could become more analytical with the mantra or the mandala, the audio or the visual. I really, this is not necessarily a meditation that I often practice, but I think it's a neat meditation on consciousness that really correlates mind state and political state. The allegory of the cave, in which, of course, there's 4 characters. There's the chained and the unchained that are forced and transfixed by images on a wall that are cast by the captors. Mm-hmm. And then the 4th character, the 4th type, is the freed prisoner. And this Socratic allegory of the cave is like Neo in the Matrix, right? Everyone is living in a cave, and Neo gets freed from the cave, and he goes, "Oh my God, this is reality? Holy cow!" Well, in the Socratic version, he is brought out of the cave and realizes, "Oh, wait, so that's the real light. The sun is the real light, and that's a real horse. And oh my God, I've been lied to, and everyone I know has been lied to." And so you can apply that allegory politically, but you can also apply it individually on a conscious level. How many caverns do we exit in our own consciousness, right? Like, thank God I'm not like the teenager I once was. Yeah. Because I've come out of the cave, so to speak, only to find there's another cave here. On a consciousness allegorical level, right? So a lot of these metaphors, allegories, and so forth can actually be utilized in meditation through analytical processes to enhance consciousness. And certainly they were meant as that also. Maybe not necessarily allegory of the cave, but I would think.
So how does your Tai Chi practice or Qigong, people practicing energy work like Qigong, fit into the geometry?
Well, there is a couple of specific practices that are a little bit esoteric in their design, but really depict this circulation part of the geometry of energy, and they're the microcosmic orbit and the macrocosmic orbit. And essentially you're circulating energy within, and then beyond that, circulating energy within and with the universal energies. In Tai Chi and Qigong, the center point of our universe is the North Star. And I mean, it's the point that doesn't move, right? and so this macrocosmic orbit connects with the North Star or one's own star in imagination and the Earth energies. So it unifies the masculine and feminine universal energies, and that these are kind of grand circulation ideas that relate to the circle. But in Tai Chi specifically, it's pretty much everywhere, because Tai Chi means yin yang. And so Tai Chi Chuan is actually the human practice of the yin yang, which is not a flat coin, it's a globe, right? And so like with Tai Chi stick, it really illustrates this. But any movement, you are the point yourself, and you're using your appendages to clean the space around you. And when you practice Tai Chi, you kind of gain a perimeter awareness that's maybe magical, maybe intuitive, but it kind of begins to expand. Your perimeter senses expand. And it sounds kooky, but when you experience it, then it's actual.
Physical perimeter awareness, or more of a metaphysical?
Absolutely. Both yeah. Certainly. But certainly physical. I mean, part of the reason, Tai Chi means grand ultimate, which means yin yang, right? So it's the grand ultimate form and the grand ultimate martial art, because it's kind of the way of no way, like the Tao, right? Which is this, there's no, you don't think about how you're going to hurt your opponent. You just see their energy and let them do what they're going to do, right? And that's the highest function of martial arts, even if they're hard styles. You don't want to have a plan. It's
intuitive. It's in the flow.
Exactly. And so, but I'm not by any means an expert with the stick, but I practice Tai Chi stick. And when you're moving the stick, which is a point with a line with these 2 points at the end, you move it in a circle. And at first it becomes and looks very much like a plane. And then as you start to manipulate it further, it's holding a solid, right? And so this is also the form, right? Where you are first this point in your individual center point is often in Tai Chi anyway, referred to as the Dantian, which is like the root chakra.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that's your center point, and you get that spinning, and that kind of engages the rest of your body. I like to say Tai Chi doesn't make me less clumsy, but it makes me more likely to save myself from my clumsiness. And so we all are basically have these straight appendages, right? These kind of clumsy, straight appendages. And when we practice Tai Chi, we turn the straight into circle and even spherical.
Huh. Yeah, I like that. It makes sense. I've done a little bit of Qigong, and maybe that's why I catch things that fall now.
Really? That's exactly what I mean. That's exactly what I mean.
Nothing falls. I just catch everything.
You're a catcher. You just catch everything.
Yeah.
Graham the catcher.
Yeah, and so this idea of Neo in the Matrix gaining so much insight that he is able to understand before it happens, it's not so out of our grasp. I think intuition is something that's practiced just like drawing, right? We all have the capability to be an artist. But do we practice it? Well, then we'd think we can't do it.
It's tough, though. I think for guys, I've said this before, but I think it's tougher than for women, for us to get out of our heads, or for me to get out of my head and get into my intuition. Like, how do I discern negative thoughts or just thoughts, random thoughts for intuition?
Yeah, well, I feel like women are, and this is not so abstract, but women are just open, right? And that's why there's so much political mediation that's focused on women. They get hit much harder than guys with social constructs, right? But also on the other side of mediation is their ability to gain intuition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're completely open to it.
Like get this. I tried to follow my intuition. Darren, you're gonna like this one. I tried to follow my intuition yesterday. I usually leave my sliding door open, and and for my cat to go in and out. So for some reason yesterday, I thought I feel like closing this, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to listen to my intuition. I'm going to close the door because for some reason I had this fear or whatever, like I should close the door today. So I get home after work yesterday. My cat was locked out on the balcony all day long. So much for my intuition. I ended up locking him outside.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. A good way to think of intuition is, it's very much like piercing the veil, that idea, right? But if you take a stick and poke water with it, all of a sudden that stick looks like it's maybe 4 inches away. It varies, right? It just doesn't look right. And I think intuition is like trying to discern where the stick is at. So it takes practice. It takes knowing how the piercing works, right?
Yeah. Whether it's coming from almost like a true source or not, or whether it's coming from some, fear, like some deep fear-based cognitive thing that's going on.
That's this discernment is the biggest lesson in intuition. And this is, I think, that what you just said stems from, you can't go looking for money with your intuition. People often will say, well, if people were psychic, you would hear about a psychic lottery winner. Well, it just doesn't work that way, right? The universe has to kind of be in agreement with you for it to work.
Yeah.
So often enough, if you have a selfish or fearful motivation, you're not going to get any intuition.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, or you're going to miss it. And that's why you don't hear about the psychics winning the lottery, so to speak. But what is winning the lottery, right? I mean, long life and vitality is the most valuable thing out there. We get so caught up in, this focus on materialism that now I can only find a good thing is comparable to winning the lottery, right?
Yeah. What do you got coming up nowadays after you got this book out, The Geometry of Energy?
Well, I'm working on a fiction piece. I've written a couple of fictional pieces in the past. I'm working on a fictional piece that's set in New York City dystopia, where a drug dealer turns into a book dealer because the First Amendment and the right to communicate is basically eliminated.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's interesting.
So it's a book about a book that enables people to be psychic, actually. And on that being released and people realizing who's been lying to them, all chaos erupts, and then they start banning that book and a lot of others. So it's a fictional piece, but I'm working on that. I'm working on a Tai Chi book. I just finished a little thing. I've been kind of honestly scared to even talk about it, but it's called The Metaphysics of Monotheism. And I kind of go against, most of the, 5 billion monotheists on the planet, give or take a couple billion. So I might anger some people, but what I do is essentially propose that there's no one in oneness.
Right. It's all. Yeah.
It's all.
Yeah.
It's all. And so that's what spirituality is really about, is the oneness, not the one.
Yeah. So when is that coming out?
That's out. The Metaphysics of Monotheism is out.
Oh, okay.
Like I said, I've kind of been just like, maybe I shouldn't talk about that, but you got it out of me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one, man. Anybody that can find that balance of spirituality without the dogma of religion or the dogma in politics and all that, I think it's healthy.
Well, and the Jainism is the old way, probably the oldest religion on the planet, and their whole thing is, that's great, whatever you do, and of course they are really obsessed on not hurting anything or anyone, but really at its primary, they're like, a Christ, awesome. Muhammad, great. Whatever you do is awesome. Just don't hurt people around here,
Yeah.
So and I think we've lost that in exploring monotheism. I learned some things I wasn't expecting, but monotheism, I mean, just that word is so messed up. Mono means basically one, and it also means moon. But it's like one, and the means, one, and ism is the way. So it's like monotheism essentially means the way. And, it's like, so it enforces on this psychological level all kinds of issues. It said, culture runs downstream of religion, and politics runs downstream of religion, and culture runs downstream of that, right? So religion, whether we like it or not, is so influential on our government and our culture.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would urge people to check out your writing as well on the website wakeup-world.com. You've got a couple recent ones too. The political bottom line: can spirituality overcome the oligarchy? And some stuff on nuclear experimentation. Was that yours? Yeah, that was yours too.
I just kind of finished that political bottom line, and again, like, I'm no monotheist, but the story of Jesus really is compelling in the way that he bettered himself. And then he went out to heal and teach others. And then he went to the most diabolical institution he could find around him and said, "You guys suck. Out of here." Right? And so that's really inspiring. And you know what he said? The Last Supper, he said, "Remember me in my death." And we culturally now, we don't do that. We remember his great birth. So it's an example of how the institutions use the story to how they want to present it. But actually, wow, that story is a total spiritual story, whether you want to, regardless of what you think about religion. He went to the big boys and said, "Out of my dad's house.
Yeah.
You are the most diabolical things going on." And a lot of times institutions chastise that event as the one fault of Jesus, right? Because he was this otherwise peaceful individual. Well, he still was peaceful. I think he just was sick of what they were doing, right?
Yeah. I also want to point out the probably my favorite one was your writing on why alternative media is the new mainstream. And then at the end, you go through a whole bunch of stuff on the new media compared to the old media, and how there's really basically like 6 corporations running 90% of the media this year. And then you get into like the top 50 of your favorite alternative media sites, right? Which is great. There's a bunch of stuff on there that we follow there. There's the Zen Gardener, and there's Corbett Report, and a bunch of people that we've talked to as well. So it's good to see that list there.
Yeah, I wanted to really unite the alternative media because there's some diversity even in that group, and I wanted to really bring everyone together, even if it was just in that little list. And I also found that a neat phrase in that article, the paperclip theory.
Yeah.
Right? As opposed to Operation Paperclip, where the U.S. brought over in secret at the time all these Nazis that should have been put on trial.
Yeah.
And so the paperclip theory is kind of this proposition. Well, why are there so many kind of Nazi people around? It sure seems like he's a Nazi. And so maybe, well, they actually are. But because there's sometimes these lies reek so bad that you have to wonder, why would they do that? Why would they risk everything to lie about that little thing?
Yeah.
And maybe there's some sense to it if you look at the possibility that they have some bigger thing that they're trying to hide.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And that one thing, the Project Paperclip, even though I've heard so much about it in the last few years, it still doesn't get any real official attention or official, what am I trying to say? Like critique, Like why aren't more people talking about it? They just sort of whitewash it.
Yeah,
the Russians were coming.
It's totally whitewashed. Well, and Russia had the equivalent operation. They brought over a bunch of Nazis to high level, valuable folks. But obviously most of them are, very old or, getting to be gone. But where are they now as far as their families? Are there families in these high level institutions now?
Yeah, exactly. They're flying around in all the flying saucers that they brought over with them.
Yeah, right. But they were kind of like these, I'm sure that they ended up at these Ivy League universities and got into the cuts of all the elite of the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe surely there were so many, not to say they all stood by these Nazi principles, but in looking at the behavior of some of these police organizations in the United States, one has to wonder.
Yeah. Right on, buddy. Well, thanks for sharing that. When you come out with that next one there, what was that one going to be? The fictional piece there. Let us know when you come out with that fictional piece.
It's the new printed threat.
Okay, that's what it's called. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I'll definitely let you know. And again, I bow to you guys for letting me on and communicate. And I hope everyone found it somewhat valuable and interesting. And again, I much appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, we're gonna link to everything in the show notes as well. That website there and your books on Amazon and everything.
Well, thanks, guys.
Everybody should read 1984 and then read the guide afterwards. If you haven't read 1984, read that and then read the guide.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thanks a bunch, Eathan.
Right on. Much love. Peace on earth.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Hey, when you come up to Canada, let us know.
I'm going to be there.
Okay.
It looks like sometime after November.
All right, buddy. Okay, take care.
Peace.
Okay, bye.
And that was our chat with Eathan Indigo. What'd you think, buddy?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like that dystopian kind of stuff right now and the meditation and the spiritual part of it.
We are dystopia. So you haven't read 1984?
Yeah, I have it a long time ago, I think, but I don't really remember it lately. It's kind of on my list of old classics to do,
You should do it sooner than later.
Yeah, probably, eh?
Yeah, so big thanks to Eathan for coming on the show. Check out his books.
And his blogs.
And, good luck to him in the future.
Yeah.
Check out Grimerica.ca/support if you enjoyed the no commercials during the show. Sign up for a monthly or send a one-time donation, whatever tickles your fancy. Spam grab. Graham.
GRAHAM at Grimerica.com.
That's right. Sign up for the newsletter.
Send your art to nap at Grimerica.
That's right.
As in taking a nap.
That's right. Is that it?
That's about it, buddy.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We will see you next week.